Hi, CS Insider family. This is Erika. I'm Senior Customer Success Manager at Condeco Software. Today, the topic of this presentation will be health scores. So let's dive into it. The agenda for today is we're going to be discussing first what the definition of a health score is, why every company needs to build one, which are the steps to build a successful health score. And finally, I'm going to be showing some examples of how a health score looks in action. So let's get started. Okay, so the definition of a health score is really a leading indicator of how your customer is doing towards achieving their definition of success. There are different ways to measure or to illustrate how a health score looks, but the most common one is a traffic light. So similar to the graph that we have to the left, the customers will be fitted into different buckets, which are a green health score, yellow, or red. So why does a company need to build a health score? First of all, it will give you insights as to what is happening with your customers if they are not completing different sets of milestones from what you wanted them to do with your product. It will allow you to quickly identify risky accounts, which are the red accounts, and be able to follow up timely and proactively with those accounts. It will also help you learn from the strategies that you're implementing towards bringing those red and yellow customers into green customers and understand if those strategies are working or not. And it will also allow your team to have to switch from a reactive approach into a proactive approach to make sure that your customers are achieving their definition of success. Now, there's different sets of steps to be able to build your first health score. I guess the main important part of actually building a health score is identifying those milestones that really define a healthy customer at your company. So here you can be measuring different sets of variables like product usage, customer success sentiment, support chats, or any type of notes that you're having from your CRM, or trying to build as much information as you can to understand if your customer is achieving their definition of success. Then the second step would actually be to be able to track all of that data directly from your product and any other tools that you're currently using. Then once you have defined that list, the next step would be to determine those priorities and understand which of those variables will be having a heavier weight on your health score. And that way, once you start running all of your customers with those variables, understanding if the customers, once you see the results, are actually a fit on those buckets. So the last step would be to actually test and iterate the health score to make sure that that it was done correctly, and that if it needs any adjustments, they are done before you actually take that to the next step. So some example here, I'm going to be pretending to be the CSM at one of my favorite products, which is Churn Zero. So for us to be able to build a health score, the first thing that we need to understand is what would any customer that has bought Churn Zero be looking to achieve by implementing a customer success tool. So for us, since I am such a power user of Churn Zero, and I'm able to really understand what the goals of a company are by implementing a customer success tool, I was able to build this table here with the variables that I consider that are really important for any customer that will be using this tool. So because I know that CSMs are it's very important for us to be able to be following up timely with the customers. I'd say that the frequency of use expected for any user using Churn Zero would be daily usage. So if a customer starts diminishing the usage from this tool, that would be considered somewhat like a red alert. And then another variable that I've considered to add at this for this health score would be the advanced settings, or any API integrations that would be able to pull down information from your CRM or from your support tool, or any other tools like billing, for example. So I believe that one of the most important settings for ChurnZero would be to be able to get all of those settings in place for any company to start really taking advantage of all the information that can be pulled from other tools. Another thing that's really important is that I believe that every product has at least 3 features that are considered the main features from a software, right? So for us, when we started implementing ChurnZero, 4 of the things that we wanted to accomplish and to really get out of this tool was the ability to build an onboarding journey that would help all of our CSMs follow up timely with the customers with each one of the milestones and the stages of our onboarding journey. And then we also wanted to be able to build alerts that would let the CSM know when the product usage started dropping, or if I don't know, like different sets of alerts for them to follow up timely. And we also wanted a ChurnZero because we wanted to build a health score, which is actually the topic of this conversation. So once we were able to build a health score, really understand how our customers were doing towards the milestones that we wanted them to achieve from our product. And finally, another thing that was really important for us was to be able to build plays. So that was something that will help our team automate our engagement and our emails that were sent to customers in specific timings or specific parts of the process. So these were kind of like the 4 main goals of our previous company to actually look into ChurnZero. So this is why I included them in this health score for this company. Another thing that's really important to take into consideration is the type of engagement that you have with your customers. So if you have a way to measure emails, calls, text, or any support chats from the customer reaching out to ChurnZero, for example, that would be also a variable that will allow you to understand how engaged the customer is. So that's also going to be included in this health score. And finally, the other thing that I believe it's really important to include is the NPS score. So if you've had the opportunity to run a survey with your customers and you have any information on what their feeling is towards your tool, if they have good feedback or not, or any recommendation or the NPS score itself, it's also good to add that to your health score in a way that you're able to include that sentiment as well. So in this example, I am outlining the criteria for a customer that is meeting usage daily, frequency of use, that they have completed all of their integrations, including HubSpot, Intercom, and ChargeBee, which are the most common ones or the ones that we used in the past. They have created one journey, but they have not created any alerts, built a health score or a play, which I'm marking here in red. Then they are responding to emails sent, and they have been pretty engaged with the tool, so that's not really an issue. And finally, they have 10 licenses. In average, all of the users have rated the tool with a 10 NPS score. So that's also something that added to the health score here to the right. Now, because they are not creating alerts, health score, or plays, that is actually going to rest them the amount of 45 points, which is actually why this customer would end up in a yellow health score with a 55 healthy score. Now, one thing that it's important to note is that health scores are measured not only once, they are measured every week, every month, or every 15 days, whatever the frequency that you want to do that to. And it's a trend. So for example, for this specific customer, I'm going to show here a graph that shows how the health score started changing from when they signed up in February up until March. So as you can see here, this is actually the churn score, which is the reverse of the health score as we know it. And Churn Zero manages this type of graphs where you can trend how the health score is measuring every month. So in February, this customer rated 100% churn score because he was new. But then when we started doing the implementation and going forward on the onboarding process, this customer started changing from 100 to 45. And then a thing that we can note here is that this customer has been in a 45 churn score for the last 2 months, which is March and April, which means that they have not made any progress towards their 4 definitions or their 4 main goals, which we already defined in the previous slide as the journeys, alerts, health score in place. So if we're able to reach out to this customer, and if I were the CSM of this account, what I would actually do is try to reach out to the decision maker and see if I could also email them some resources on how to create all of the things that they are not creating yet. So for example, I would be able to send a resource or a video on how to create a health score in Churn Zero, or how to create a play. Or I might also reach out to see if I could schedule a meeting so we can cover all of the 3 things that are still missing from their journey and from what they decided they wanted to achieve from the tool. So once we are able to do this, the important here to note is that this is one customer. But if you're looking into a set of 150 customers or 100 customers, this type of measurements allows you to do massive campaigns, for example, to help them and guide them to complete the milestones they have not completed yet. So from the first time we implemented this in the past, I did have a lot of learnings from the first time I implemented a health score. The first thing is that the first thing that's important to note is that when you're building a health score, you might not get it right the first time. It's important that you are testing and iterating as many times as necessary as you start feeling comfortable with the results of that. So it's okay if the first time you didn't get it right. The only important thing here is that you make sure that those adjustments, once you start deep diving into the customers and the scores, that actually makes sense, and that they're able to replicate that with the rest of the customers. And then the other thing is that the other thing that I've learned is that when we were implementing this health score, we did it for our onboarding customers. So they were actually new customers who have just signed up for in the company. So the health score that we were measuring for these customers was just for the onboarding journey. So we realized that if we ran this health score with the rest of the customers, for example, that had more than 12 months or more than 18 months with our tool, we found out that there were different variables that were not being considered in this first health score, and that allowed us to learn that we probably needed more than one health score for us to be able to measure the rest of our customers who had been with us for a longer time. And you might as well have to create 2 or 3 or different health score based on the tenure or the segments of the customer. So that was also one of my learnings. And finally, the other thing that we learned is that the first time we created the health score, we didn't include the NPS score as one of the variables. And the reason we didn't do that was that we didn't have one. It was the first time we were going to be creating the NPS survey. So we didn't include that at first. And then realized that we were seeing customers who had a perfect healthy score, a green 0 churn score in our accounts, and they had been giving feedback in their NPS scores, rating them, rating some of the services with 4 or 5 or even with 3. So that meant that we needed to make a change in our health score to include these NPS scores. So we were able to have a real, a more accurate measure of how they felt with our product. So that was one of the other learnings that we had once we implemented the health score. So the other important thing here is that once you start doing this and learning more about what your customers want and the outcomes that they are looking to achieve, you are going to be able to build a better health score down the road. So this was all. Thank you very much for joining again. If you have any questions or you would like to connect, here's my LinkedIn profile, and I'm happy to share more of these learnings. Thank you.